As soon as we have a quorum, we'll get started.
I am calling to order the Orleans Parish School Board Budget and Finance Committee meeting for November 18th, 2025. The time is now 11:40 a.m. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Parker,
Present.
Mr. Zervigon,
Present.
Ms. Spiro,
Present.
Ms. Griffin, Mr. Marshall, Ms. Eames, Ms. Bodwin.
Present.
Also present, Dr. Fatima Fulmore, Superintendent, Ashley Halpern, Board Counsel. You have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. I now defer to our board counsel to take us through the rules for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Anyone wishing to speak with regard to items on the agenda should fill out a public comment card and submit it to the board secretary. Cards will be received up to 1/2 hour after the meeting begins. Each person shall be permitted to speak up to 2 minutes as established by the chair. I will recognize the speaker and give the speaker permission to proceed. The speaker shall state their name and address for the board records. Those who have a group concern are encouraged to select a spokesperson from the group to address the concern. Speakers are expected to be as concise as possible and to present their questions and comments in accordance with good taste and decorum and without reference to or insinuations against the board, its members, or school system employees. Disruptions or disorderly conduct at the committee meeting will constitute grounds for the presiding officer to ask security personnel to remove the offender.
Thank you, board counsel. Moving to item 1.3, adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions, deletions, or modifications?
We do not.
All right, hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda as provided?
So moved.
Yes, second.
Been moved by President Bodwin, seconded by Mr. Zervigon. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That item is adopted. Now moving to section 2, the consideration of minutes, I will once again yield to our board counsel.
It is recommended that the committee adopt the minutes of the October 28th, 2025 Budget and Finance Committee meeting. I have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented.
So move, waiving the reading.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Parker and seconded by President Bodwin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes have been adopted.
Thank you so much. Now we are moving on to the big show, the main show for today, the finance update. So I will once again yield this time to district staff, to our CFO, Ms. Naisha Veal.
Good morning, board members.
Morning.
Dr. Fulmore, community. So for our finance updates, we will be going over our September financial statements now that we've gotten all of our audit adjustments in from 2024 into the system. We can talk about balances and where we are. We have the school system updates, Leah Chase School audit, and just some reminders as we look ahead going into the winter and spring months. With our September financials, the revenue for the period totaled about $17.4 million compared to our $2.6 million that we budgeted. One of the things that I do want to remind you all is that we had some state legislative approved stipends show up in that month. That's what made this astronomically higher than what we budgeted for. We do have a general fund amendment in our flow today up for approval to go to the board for consideration, just to accept those stipends into the budget formally. Our expenditures for the period were about $3.3 million in comparison to our 3.6. So expenditure-wise, we have been under budget for the month. Revenue-wise, with that addition of the stipends, you will see that increase as well. the stipends they were paid out in October, so during our next board meeting, you will see more expenditures than normal because of those stipends. As it pertains to our school system updates, we have shared a lot with our schools over the last couple weeks. We got the final tax roll certification letter from the assessor, and as anticipated, our net taxable assessments for properties did decrease a little bit since that $5.6 billion number that we saw in the previous month. So net taxable assessments ended up being $5.583 billion. And when we look at our revenue considerations that we will be receiving in 2026, we are showing the calculation of how we generate what we think the estimate would be. So again, we have now $5.583 billion times your taxable measurement of 0.1%. That gives us what our mill base point will be with the 45.31 mills that we receive. We still have to pay the assessor fee, even though the city collection fees has an injunction through December of 26. So at a 95% collection rate, we're estimating that we will bring in about $240.3 million in revenue. Definitely a decrease from what we showed last month. So we are being mindful of that as we go into our spring season of collecting local revenues. How that impacts our per pupil rate right now, we still are looking at 94.35.41 per pupil for this school year for schools, because that is based on the local revenues that we collected in 25. But for the 26-27 school year, we see a slight decrease. And that slight decrease is contingent upon if we collect the same amount of sales tax as we did last year. For a reminder, we collected a little over $182 million in sales tax in the midst of a Super Bowl, in the midst of Taylor Swift. So without those events, we're unsure how we will come in at that time. So if we do see lower sales tax, I am anticipating that amount to be larger. Another thing to keep in mind when we look at this 2-year comparison, we are still looking at 2/1 or February 1st differentiated counts. So those numbers will be updated in February, well, really in April or May when the final counts come out. But normally they have like a 2% increase in differentiated counts. So we are looking for those amounts to get smaller over the next 2 years. Just to showcase what a snippet of our November DLFA will look like for schools, we still have the revenue amounts, even though you saw $504 million or $507 million being the pot of revenues, we still have it at 496 because we have an open audit out. So with that being said, once we have solidified where we believe those revenues will be finalized at, that is when we'll lift up the numerator, which is the revenue side of this calculation. Now we want to talk a little bit about the Leah Chase School. Questions?
Let's open it up to the board. President Bodwin, I see your light.
Ms. Veal, on the property tax revenue consideration slide, we have a 95% expected collection rate. Is that high? It feels high, given the last couple of years?
Yeah, so in 2024, we had about 93%, but last year we had 95.38.
Okay.
So we're feeling confident that we're not in a reassessment year. We do think it will stabilize at that 95%, but we still have some contingencies in place if so.
Okay, thank you.
A question for me, the number, the per pupil number, the 94.1622, that is based off of collecting the same amount of sales tax that we collected last year?
Correct. So it does account for the 95% of property, but again, we have to pretty much collect 182.7 in sales tax for this to be a good
And
thing.
how out of line is that from previous years when there wasn't a Super Bowl and when there wasn't Taylor Swift?
In previous years, we've been between 175 and 177.
Okay, so it's close, but okay, understood. But what I'm what I'm hearing from this is we're assuming a 95% collection rate. We're assuming sales taxes hold constant, even though last year was kind of an anomaly. So if I'm a school and I'm budgeting, I'm maybe considering that this 9416 number, if I'm being conservative, this 9416 number is probably
It might
or
be
the
smaller.
number- Yeah, we might be
yeah.
receiving less than this.
Because keep in mind of the differentiated counts. When we include an update in differentiated counts, I could see this number changing between $50 and $100, because that's essentially what happened last year,
Changing in a good way or in a bad way?
negative. So at the time last year, we had 9208, 9239 with the 24 counts included. When we got final 2125 counts, the final number ended at 912816. So I am telling school leaders like, hey, the district is even planning on budgeting at 9300 in the next year based on that movement in differentiated counts.
Got it.
So even though we know an ideal of revenues, we still have to think about the differentiated counts coming in outside of the base.
So if I'm a school, like, obviously our schools have autonomy. They are able to budget however they want, as long as, you know, we have some accountability measures in place. But if I'm a school, should I be taking this 9416 number and running with it? Or when will I have a sort of final estimate that I can plug into my calculations as I'm planning my budget for next year?
I think once we have 2-1 counts, that's when we can have that final number that we can give the schools. But as of right now, one thing that I will say is whatever we're showing schools, this is also what the district is rolling with as well. So being that I've told schools like, hey, these are the contingencies that we have in our calculations. You may see a $50 to a $100 swing to where it represents less, and that number could look like 9335. The district is preparing at 9300. We're making those, like, we're giving those announcements out to schools every month, so they know what we thinking. And they, like, we do have schools call us now and say, what do you think we should go with for our school and why? We just keep consistency.
Got it. And so the headline that I'm taking away from this as a board member is right now we're projecting 9416. That number is likely to decrease based off of our enrollment counts, based off of sales tax receipts, and potentially based off of the percentage of people that pay their property taxes.
Yes, we are also telling schools, like, the deferred revenue that we're anticipating them to receive this upcoming spring, that might be the last amount of deferred revenue they could see for a while, because they are potentially looking at a negative deferred situation, which we do need to kind of monitor how that looks, because our schools may have to pay back funds based on what those amounts are.
Got it. And so, again, just to really put a pin in this, last year was, or for this year, they have 9435. For next year, we're projecting 9416, which is a decrease of about $20 per student, and it's likely
To get lower. Yes.
to get lower.
Yes.
And I will once again point out, we haven't received an increase in level 1 MFP. We've received, I think, one level 1 MFP increase in the last 16 years.
Yeah.
So our schools are being asked to do more with less, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other, Board Member Bureau?
I just want to clarify, did I hear that correctly, that after this spring, we may not do another deferred revenue?
We may not see one.
Okay.
Correct. As we go into Leah Chase, we've done a good bit of studying since the last month's meeting, and so there are some things that we've done to kind of give better ideas of what the school could look like based on some thoughts and considerations. One of the things that we had to think about is how many students can the current Leah Chase building hold? While it is 916, and that's based on the 33 classrooms we have that can hold up to 28 kids, we have to keep in mind a differentiated programming, a specialized programming. So we have taken out about 5 of those classrooms so we can make room for that type of programming. So If we were to run a full whole school model, as suggested over the last month, the maximum kids that we would put in the Leah Chase School would be 761 students. Current trends right now, based on the enrollment data that we see, is that at a whole school K-8 model, the amount of enrollment that we will see is about 468 students. And when we look at the previous operators' student count on October 1st, 2024, or February 2024, we saw that the previous operator had 476 students enrolled at that time. So it is kind of, our projections is actually in alignment with that same area 2 years prior. When we look at one of the school models that we've considered whole school, we wanted to look at a school with similar size of 468 students. So in school A model, one thing I want to lift up is this school is currently in a network where they're ran by another charter management group, and they have already built up a separate fund balance where the network could pool resources with the other schools that they oversee to maximize the efficiencies that they've created. So essentially, when we look at the number of employees, that school had 57, 32 of them were teachers, but all the teachers are on one scale. NOLA PS, we have the certified and the uncertified scales, but their average is about $57,250 per teacher without TRSL. We, of course, have $65,000 average with TRSL. Revenues were pretty much in alignment, but in School A's model, they were able to create a lot of efficiencies to where staffing and benefits, salaries and benefits could be about 61% of that current budget. Non-personnel costs, about $2.5 million. So they were able to kind of keep a surplus in mind. This school currently has extracurriculars where they pay stipend base. They have more grant funded opportunities, private donor opportunities, and a line of credit. So because of those efficiencies where you think about this one fund balance for maybe a few schools, we have to think that our fund balance is for all schools still, because we still have capital, we still have all of these other restricted things that we have to manage for our schools. So I do want to keep that in mind, that when you look at School A, there is a similar size model where you can make this work within the revenues, but then there's the whole traditional components of it with TRSL, with the certified versus non-certified scale, Act 311. All of these things matter at the end of the day with our bottom line. So we kind of spoke through some of these things, but the main thing that I do want to lift up is that under School A, the Leah Chase School will see a deficit due to the fact that staffing would be much higher at School A for Leah Chase than it would be if we were ran in a different capacity. When we look at School B, we're looking at the arts integrated model, and this is partially what we spoke to in the October meeting. So based on 468 kids, when you see that revenue of $6.7 million that is being generated, with salaries and benefits, we're having salaries and benefits coming at $5.8 million, which is about 87% of the revenues that we collect, and we still have to pay for non-personnel costs. And we do not have student activity dollars or after-school programming fees included in that. So we don't have those things in mind. We would need about 668 students in the building to eliminate that deficit. So we're off about 200 students in our enrollment projections. Our deficit at that school would be a little over $2 million based on the current budget that we would keep in mind. And so when I look at the itemized cost breakdown, This kind of gives an idea of the staff that would be in the building. And on your next slide, you will see what our non-personnel costs would be, and the non-personnel cost has been based on what we've seen over the last year and some change with our spending in the building. Yes.
Yes, Ms. Field, this projected deficit for this scenario of 2,044,000, is this based off our current enrollment, or is that based off of
It will be based off the projected enrollment of 468.
468 for a K-8 model?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
As we move into School C, this is our whole school model where I would talk about an expansion of programming, which for the best academic outcomes, we're adding interventions, we're adding arts and sports. And this model has about 94 employees, and it provides 3 to 4 sections with those small group interventions. One thing that I didn't say about the first 2 models, or the second model, I'm sorry, Model B, is that would be based on 2 sections. In this Model C, it would be based on 3 to 4 sections of your K-8 cohorts. With those 3 to 4 sections, you're looking at about $7.3 million in staffing costs, which is the salaries and the benefits. If we leave non-personnel costs constant from Model B, you're looking at a deficit of about $3.5 million. You need about 790 kids to kind of clear that deficit out, and we've already established that the max amount of students that we would want to host in that building is 761. Yes.
So the deficit's more if there are more kids in the building because it requires more staffing? Is that what you're saying?
No, we still are going on the model of 468 students. So because we added more staffing in Model C, because you're
I
adding,
guess I don't know what it means to be a 2-section school versus a 3 to 4-section school. I'm sorry.
yeah,
So right now at the Leah Chase School, we have 2 classrooms per grade level, so 2 second grade, 2 third grade, and so forth. Also, what we have is math and science teacher, ELA social studies teacher, where in some models they may have math teacher, English teacher, science teacher, social studies
So it's the
teacher.
same number of kids, it's just smaller classroom, or just classrooms with fewer kids in them? No?
So no, not necessarily the same. So in this model, she's saying if we had 468 students, which we would be projecting would, you know, in order to not have a deficit with this model, we would need 790 students in
okay.
the
I
school.
see
And so this school is likely to have.
With the number, okay, I got you.
Right.
I understand
And
now, thank you.
so a lot of these schools that we're looking at, they have these high enrollment numbers currently, which would explain why we would be in a deficit with 468 versus higher enrollment.
Okay, thank you.
and we did want to give the itemized cost breakdown with the principal, the number of teachers, the type of teachers in each of the models. Again, the services and the supplies would be constant. So this is how we are estimating our $3.5 million deficit. When we talk about last month, we want to kind of go back to if we went with the regular things that we talked about last month. This is what we see trending. We've had an enrollment target. We see how many kids that were actually or projected to stay with the Leah Chase School. We have our retention rate set up at 68% base point because in 24-25 we had that 68% base point where we had 95 students transfer out. And we are showing the revenues trending if we was to keep the build a grade model going. So this is why you see kind of like the increase in students each year, the increase in that step, because we're still on that like build a school to a whole school. With our operations and programming, I have highlighted 25-26 because last month during the meeting we showcased, hey, we had a deficit right now of 567,000. One of the things that we have done to try to eliminate the deficit completely, we've adjusted our revenues based on what we're seeing come in, because we actually budgeted the year at 9221, but being that we're seeing better revenue amounts, we have increased that revenue, added in our projection of deferred, and in addition, that left us with about 350,000 or so in the deficit. So what the accounting departments did in finances, we went through contracts, we went through things that we can probably forego, or plan things that we will just not start contractually in order to like eliminate that deficit. So we will be doing that service elimination for this year in order to eliminate the deficit at Leah Chase. So we did want to kind of lift that up, because in a review of the financial information, we did see that we have some things that we can like maneuver and plan for in another year. And if we have to eliminate altogether, we've talked through alternatives on how to move forward. From last month, I just wanted to give the breakdown with the operations costs in addition to the programming breakdown that we saw last month. So in the next two slides, what you see is how we budgeted for our transportation, maintenance, furnitures and fixtures, our supplies, curriculum, and our utility costs to get us back to the operations costs that you see in the slide before. In addition to the operations breakdown, we wanted to provide the programming breakdown. So with the programming breakdown, we wanted to showcase some of the things we had in place at Leah Chase last year and things that you could have in 26-27. And in addition to the 27-28 school year. So this is what comprised of that $357,609. Any questions about the Leah Chase School?
Yes, Board Member
I
Beal.
saw that and for the grant-funded curriculum and professional development for the 25-26 year, it went from 65,000, and then for the following years, it's projected to be 123,000. How did we get such a big leap in grant funding? That's exciting to me, and I was wondering what that is earmarked for.
So we had some rollover funds from Title I, being that ESSER ended. So we have a time now where we can start liquidating those funds in the current fiscal year. So that's pretty much
Okay,
where.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm being dense today.
Oh, no.
I see the comparisons for school A, school B, and school C. Is current situation reflected in here?
That is in the orange slides. So where we talk about what we presented over the last month, we have the 25-26 numbers. We talked about the cost that we had and how we had the 567,000 budgeted in the next slide. And then we provided that breakdown of the operations and programming costs if we were to do that 357,000 of programming costs, and what is comprised in that $1,083,000 of operation costs.
Okay, thank you.
So I am thinking about this from thank you for the update on this current year. I'm thinking about this from a long-term perspective. First off, we asked you to put together a number of scenarios at the last board meeting, and you and your team have done that. So Superintendent Misfield, thank you for doing all that work and presenting this to us. And thank you to your team for that, because I know a lot of work has gone into this. It's clear to me that we need kids in the building. We don't have enough kids in the building to be sustainable. We aren't breaking even. And based on what you've presented, we wouldn't even break even at 468 students. And we're currently at 338, I think it is, something like that.
Yes.
But NCAP is open. Do we have NCAP enrollment numbers, or application numbers, excuse me, for this coming year?
Yes, Aaron can speak to what we see now.
Good morning. How are y'all? As of yesterday, we had 70 applicants. Of the applicants, 22 students have selected the Leah Chase School as their number one choice. Also, as of yesterday, we've had 20 students who have also completed NCLAP to apply out of Leah Chase.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Zervigon.
Yeah, I feel like from conversations I've had with people all over the city, operators and so forth, that the situation we're looking at here with Leah Chase is absolutely not unique. That we have under-enrollment across the district. We have schools throughout the district, buildings that are half full, and then budgets that are being stressed and strained. And I think maybe some of the feedback I'm getting would indicate in what we're seeing here that there's a growing imperative that we've got to get really serious about shrinking the footprint of the district and getting higher enrollment into fewer schools if the district's going to be financially sustainable, the entire district, every school. So I find this very informative. I'm sure that many other charter boards are having these exact same conversations and the exact same meetings that we're having right here today. So it underscores that we're going to have to do something eventually, command and control from the top, perhaps with the superintendent's work and her team as they've been looking at this very difficult situation of how to handle it, how to shrink the district. But a lot of this, I think, points to that.
So building off of what you just mentioned, Mr. Zervigon, thinking long-term. So based on what we've heard, we need more than 476 students to break even. Based on current application trends, and I think it's likely that there is a spike in applications at the beginning of the process and maybe a spike at the end. Right now, we're netting 2 additional students. We don't have a path to financial sustainability unless people start enrolling their children at this school. And I think, we as board members have heard a lot from members of the community that there is a desire for a school like Leah Chase. And we all believe that and hope that is true. But in order for this to be financially sustainable, we need people to enroll their children at the school. So if there is someone, speaking to the public, if there is somebody in your life who's enrolling in school and you believe that having a direct run school is important, you need to be talking to your grandchildren or to their parents. You need to be talking to people at your church. You need to be talking to people in your life who have children who are in elementary school and have them prioritize Leah Chase in their NCAP. Because if they don't do that, if we're all just waiting for other people to enroll in Leah Chase and not our own children, then this school will not be financially sustainable. I think, to your point, Mr. Zervigon, I was looking at the numbers in preparation for this meeting. There are 3,300 fewer K-8 students in NOLA PS than there were 8 years ago. So we still had the same mayor. We still, 8 years ago is not, we had the same president, unfortunately, but it's not that far ago, and that is the equivalent of basically 11 Leah Chases have left the district. Or not have left the district, do not exist anymore. Because we know that birth rates are lower, We also know, just for the record, that there are a higher percentage of families choosing public school now than in the past. So we have a larger portion of the pie, but the pie is smaller. So just looking at the numbers and this is the numbers committee. We have 3,300 fewer students. We have a significant deficit right now at our current levels of enrollment. Unless people start to choose Leah Chase, we will continue to have a significant deficit. And that would then take away from all the other students across the district. President Bodwin.
As far as, encouraging families to choose Leah Chase, I'm looking at the programming breakdown. I mean, we are running, it's a well-rounded school. We've got additional programming, we've got dance, we've got arts in this school already. And we've heard good reviews from parents whose students are there. So I agree that we need some more support from the community who have been demanding a school, and we are trying to be responsive to that. And we have a school, and it's a well-rounded school that's not just a cookie-cutter academic school, but also has additional programming for students to have a more well-rounded education, which is what we know parents want. I think the fact that there are that fewer students in the system today than, right before we joined the board, means that it concerns me that, maybe the kids are just not there, right? So we could have as much support from the community for this school as we're going to get, and I think we're still in a downward, there's still downward pressure on this over time, or upward pressure on the deficit. So, yeah.
And if I can add a couple of things, even the programming, excuse me, that you see here, this is contracts. This is not full-time programming. This is a couple of hours here and there, and I firmly believe that this is a starter kit, right? The numbers that we're talking about is building a robust instructional program that children deserve to have, that they can get in other schools. And in order to do that, we not only need children enrolled in the school, but if you don't have something that is attractive to families, they're not going to choose the school. And part of the deficit that we're looking at, I don't have many courses of action to come up with $2 to $3 million or $1.5 million or any millions of dollars to build the programming that children and families deserve, from arts and all of these things, without making drastic decisions right now to do that. And those drastic decisions would include me looking at staffing that I would need to cut from the central office, programming that we're paying for via our general fund dollars, to pay for things system-wide that's coming out of our general fund dollars, cut those things in order to generate the reoccurring revenue that is needed to sustain the daily operations of the school and build out the programming that families are asking for and that children deserve. And so with us netting, we're 3 weeks, 4 weeks into school, enrollment, I don't know where we are, maybe 3 weeks in. And at this point, we're netting 2 additional children in enrollment. And so what I have to have extreme clarity from the board is to what extent this continues to happen. I personally don't think it's fiscally sound to continue doing this in the way at which we are, without having the equitable educational experience and the financial backing to sustain it, or we're going to be back into the same situation again, next year, unless we significantly find children that are not here right now. And that becomes my concern in navigating this. So I appreciate not only the comments Ms. Eames made last board meeting, but what you all are saying now. We have a school for children. That means we have children, gotta have children in school to serve.
I saw Ms. Eames and then Ms. Bureau.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Ms. Beal, for that presentation that was asked for by the board. You know, it's hard to sit here to hear all of this. Well, I mean, it's factual. We have to have the facts, but it's very difficult to hear when we know that you all have collectively worked hard to make it work. But I don't know in the beginning if we ever thought that we were going to have 450 to 500 kids in the building. I thought we were on a trajectory for a slow growth school, that we eventually would get the pie in the sky and everything once our branding was out there and we became the school, the Leah Chase School, a school highly sought after. That was not an academic requirement to get into. Now, the ones who have the academic catch to them, they have waiting lists of children. But, you know, the rest of the Fantasy Williams, the Bethune, the regular single sites, they're struggling as well. I understand that they get grants and what have you, and so that makes a difference for them. But I want to say that I have a committee working now for recruitment, and we're going to be all over the city trying to recruit, to talk about the Leah Chase School without all the bells and whistles. If you ask us to get a school, we've done that, parents. We did exactly what was asked of us. Now you have to do what's been asked of you. And I want to know why 20 kids, we get 22 signed up, and why 20 leaving. So I'd like to have an exit survey to those parents so we can find out what we're not doing to satisfy them. And if it's that they don't have arts, a lot of the schools don't have arts in vocal music and a band and visual art every day, but they have people coming in to provide that service. So I would just like to know, we lost 95, you told me, I think earlier. Did I not hear that number a while ago? So it's 95, now it's 20 more, what was it, 20? So it's 112, or whatever it is.
It was 95 from last year to this year, and it's 20 have already applied out in the
Right,
in-cap.
so that's a total of 100 and some kids. That's, we almost reaching our goal if we could keep those kids in the building, so we wouldn't have to be out here recruiting another 200 kids to come into the building. So we need to find out what we're doing that the kids or the parents or whatever don't want to stay. And I'm not going to believe it's just the arts, that if we don't have the arts, they don't. Because I was a 5th grade teacher that taught every single thing, everything, from reading to the arts to PE. Every day, that was my schedule. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Ms. Bureau.
As a parent of a young child, I believe in direct run schools, and I plan on sending my son to Leah Chase if possible. So failure is not an option for me. I really want to see that we're using sources that could be, non-traditional. Possibly this is going to run us at a deficit, but could we look at different grant sourcing, possibly looking at creating a foundation so we could receive donations. Possibly startup costs could be a large issue, but if we would be able to receive things as a donation, possibly that could help with things like that. Just I want to pivot and be pragmatic, find ways that we can work. If I know you presented several scenarios for us, I wonder if we could even look at like a gifted program within the school that could be integrated. I just as a board member, I really believe in Leah Chase, and I want to see it succeed.
Dr. Fulmore.
If I may add, and I will continue to say this, we've presented several different programmatic options. We can do whatever programmatic option we want. Unless the board has a way for us to operate significantly $2 to $3 million in a deficit to make these things happen while we're finding money, fundraising, research, and doing all these things, the system-wide that is coming from our general fund to create the revenue to do it. As a reminder, last year when we opened the Leah Chase School, we had about $4 million that was coming from enrollment, another $3 million that we had for startup, and the board allowed $1.5 million in a deficit. So if you look at that, that's about how much you need constantly to run the school, and that was with low enrollment numbers. We're going to have people who are applying for charters that have operating costs of $10 million that they have to show and all these things that we don't have to operate our school. We also don't have the reserves that we used to have where we were able to pull $1.5 million from to go into a deficit for Leah Chase. The money is not there. We spent our money last year addressing nearly $50 million deficit that we were left with from a previous administration. We have less federal dollars rolling into schools where we just talked about a lower per pupil allocation coming. We're talking about less deferred revenue coming. We could not have foreseen the circumstances that we are in right now. And so if it's the will of the board for the Leah Chase School to continue beyond this school year, I need permission to not only build the school in a deficit, but I will be submitting a financial.
It can't come out of reserve
At
without
all.
violating our current board
Right,
policy.
without following our current policy. I mean, we could figure that out. We could change our board policy and take it out of reserves, but we just simply do not have the reserves to do it forever. If there's something else we as a district want to do less of, which we're already on a pretty tight 2% budget, we already do more with less every day as a district. I'm interested in thoughts on like where my colleagues would be interested in finding that additional money, but it does sound like it comes out of central office, and that means fewer services for the students that we also serve that are in schools that are not Leah Chase.
Mr. Marshall.
This is a similar conversation to what we had back in '24 when we were trying to make a decision as to after the superintendent decided to close the school, and we just questioned why and what we would do, and we brought up all of these different scenarios in a meeting similar to this when it was in a meeting with a lot of other things being discussed at the same time, right? And I said then that we should stop because today we don't have an action item, right? There's no action item to make any decision here. We're just being presented information. So there is a decision to be made, and I'm going to say just like I did back in '24, before we make any decision, we should come together as a board and discuss all of the issues. All of the issues. What do we want to happen? How can we make it happen? Is it feasible? Because this is not going away. Okay, we could have a, let me just give you a scenario. We could have a school of 1,000 kids tomorrow, okay? And that school could fail. What would we do with it? We could say, is there someone that wants to take it over and operate it, run it as a turnaround or whatever? And there's nobody available. We may have to operate that school because it's too big to fail. There are many scenarios that we don't discuss as a board. And I think it's time, because of this issue, it's time for this board to set aside some time in a special meeting to discuss all of these variables with our superintendent, with the kind of school we would like to operate, because right now we're operating the school based on our former superintendent making that decision for us and coming up with a plan because the superintendent said they could do this. They could make this happen. And we accepted that plan. And now we're faced with the consequences of a hasty decision that we did not really have input. We have a person on the end of this that has tremendous experience that we really didn't take advantage of. I'm saying we should have a special meeting with the superintendent to discuss all of these issues and come up how do we want to go forward with making these kinds of decisions, okay? And come up with an action item to move forward that is well thought out and considerate of all of the variables that we should be discussing, not in a half an hour or 40-minute meeting based on numbers. Okay, and that's what we're basing it on. We're basing it on numbers. We're not really discussing programming. We're not discussing personnel. We're not discussing the future of education. We're not discussing any of the issues that we should be discussing.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Just a point of clarification. I do want to acknowledge that Ms. Veal and her team did put together multiple different models that the board requested at the last meeting that are presented today.
I'd like to clarify. They put together 1 or 2 models, okay? They did not, we as a board did not discuss the education that we would like our children to have.
Understood.
We did not discuss that as a board. What is the quality of education that we want each and every child? If we are going to run a school, this should be an exemplary school. It should be a model that other schools could look at and say, we should be doing some of that. It should be a model, not just trying to look at this school and say, well, this school is doing that, and that's what it costs them. So if we try to do the same thing, we should be the leaders. If we are running a school, we should be leading the conversation. It should be a model school. And if we're not doing that, then we're competing with everybody else on the same level as everybody else. And if that's all we're going to do, then we should be held to the same fiscal responsibility as everybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. President Bodwin.
I feel like, I guess I understand the call for a special meeting. I do wonder, I mean, and I understand that it's hard to look at this with dollars on the screen. It's hard to think of it that way. But I do think that is the reality of not just this board, but every board. And I would love to be, I mean, I think there's plenty models of education in this system and that we can look at, or we could develop our own. But I don't think we've ever been unclear about wanting an exemplary education for the students in that building. I think we've been very clear about that since day one, when we first started talking about this, over a year ago, I guess. And I also believe that we've had opportunities this right now, last month, in budget committee or, other school accountability meetings before. That's what the job of committees is. We should be having that discussion right now. We have had it in previous months. We're having it now. I don't know why we need a special meeting to discuss something that we are discussing right now. We've got the information ahead of us. Maybe we would like to see 6 or 7 scenarios, and those maybe we could ask for another presentation of another 3 different scenarios if that's what we want. But I do think that we cannot take the money out of it. We do not have unlimited funds to just say like, here's the school we would want, if money were no object, because money is an object. We can't just say money's no object, what will we do? That's just not how it works, as much as we would like for it to. So I think we should be having that. I don't know why we would have to limit ourselves to 30 minutes right now. It's committee. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it right now.
Ms. Griffin, you had a comment?
Thank you so much. I came in late dealing with something with Edna Carr. But I do have some questions. I didn't know that we were doing it at this time. And Ms. Ms. Eames spoke about it, but my thoughts were in reference to, we talked about the 68% retention rate, and we were going to model that for the next 3 years. Can you tell me why we're doing it that way?
We only did that as the baseline because that was what 24, 25 retention rate was. So we just kept it consistent across the 4 years as that baseline number. Is not to say that it can't change, but that's just where we are.
And that's kind of sort of, that leads me to my next question. Why would we keep it there? Now, I understand the first year we have it, but why would we keep it at that rate? That's the part I'm not understanding. While I understand it's your baseline, I don't understand why we would keep it at that rate. It seems as though that we're saying that we're going to anticipate losing these amount of students. So far, I think that I got something that says we have 132 students that are missing, that, that left. 10 came back or 12 came back or something like that, if I'm correct?
Well, just to clarify, my understanding is 95 students that left.
Transferred out in 24,
transferred
25.
out from last year to this year, and there are 20 who have applied to leave for next year. So they haven't yet left, but they may.
Okay, so I have a sheet that I received via a board update that had 132 students on there. Am I incorrect in that?
Good morning.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to answer your first questions. The reason that we utilize the 68% retention rate from last year and carried it through is because the school's only been in existence for 1 year. So we're utilizing that 1 year of data in assumption that trends within the city stay the same around enrollment.
Okay, and so we'll do it that way for the next 3 years?
No, so
Okay.
we would then, of course, change based upon the trends that we see this enrollment season, but because main round just opened on November 3rd, I don't have enough data to then make better projections for you all for the next 3 years.
All right, and then Ms. Leila also was talking about, I'm sorry, Ms. Eames was talking about it, and I think that I'm guessing I need to get a better understanding of the retention analysis that we need to do in reference to those kids, because I don't think we got a full picture of why 130 some odd people have left. And I'd like to see that. And then what are we doing differently to make sure that that doesn't happen this year? And this still goes back to what I was talking about in reference to the retention rate. While I understand that's your first year, I don't understand why you would do it each year. And then we're basing it off of that. So that's just my thoughts on it. And then I also, wanted to continue. So if we're thinking that we're going to have a high retention, that the kids are not going to stay, meaning that we're basing it this year 68%, next year we're going to base it off of whatever it is from this year, and we'll just keep on doing it that way?
Let me speak to that.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the things that we did, particularly in board briefings with the model, we did it with 50 different enrollment numbers. That is just a projection based off of trend data and how we see movement happen across a complete choice system where families don't have to have a reason why they're leaving. They could be leaving because they want to get into another school that they want. We have provided the board where students have chosen, families have chosen to go as opposed to Leah Chase. And we can track down every family that was ever in Leah Chase and they're in a different school now and find out why they left. We still have a choice system where families can choose where they want to go any given moment. What we did with the enrollment numbers, we did 550, 600, 650, 700, 791. We did all types of targets to show that unless you have 700 plus, you're still going to be operating in a deficit depending on what your programming is. And we did go through that during this meeting prior to you coming in during the board briefing when I had a live model to show the enrollment number changing, because you can get more. We did it saying if we open it up 7th and 8th grade and we just everybody come in, we have simulated that and provided that information to the board in briefings, and we talked about different enrollment targets during this meeting to show what it would be. That's just in one example of what we've provided
I understand.
to the board.
Understand. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go.
I'm not trying to track down the 95 families or children that left, but the 20 that's there and choosing to leave this year. I think we are due some type of explanation since we are working very hard and the staff's working very hard to retain kids. I just would like to know, why are they leaving such a tier 1 school offering great everything that we possibly can at this point? Not to say that we don't want to be better. We're not going to be a Willow school right now. We're not going to be a Lake Forest school right now because we're starting from the bottom. Mardell, I was on her board when she came back and opened that school. She started with money out of her pocket to open that school, sitting around the kitchen table. So you have to build. You're not going to get there immediately with any new school. But I'm just interested in the ones that we have in there now. Why are they opting out when we're trying to build our enrollment to at least another 150.
So, no problem. No. Well, that's a challenge. If we never gonna get there, then that also causes a problem. That comes into my next thing in reference to us wanting to operate in a deficit for the next 3 to 4 years. I'm not so sure on that. But before you go, I'm also asking, just in reference to, I noticed that you guys put up different models. And my question to you, or to whoever can answer, was this the best of the best? So that means that did you guys look at all of the options and these were the best ones that when it was all said and done? These are the ones that you guys are presenting? Or this is just some models of which that we said?
Ms. Field's going to answer that question
Okay.
for you on the models.
We use a top performing school that has gifted in arts. We use a mid-performing school that offers arts with similar enrollment, and we use a requested school that is part of a network in the comparison.
Okay. All right, so this is the best of the best that you guys are getting. So when it's all said and done, when you look across the board, when you look across everything, these are the best options that you guys are presenting. I'm asking.
What do you mean if it's the best option? It's the option that would reflect if we built an arts program that we said we wanted for the Leah Chase School and the staffing and the cost that it takes to do that.
So what I'm hearing is we have a deficit no matter which one we go into. So when I say the best of the best, I'm saying that you looked at all different models of this school and what it can be and how great it can be. And these are the 4 that even though it's going to be a deficit, these are the best ones that we would get for what we're looking to have accomplished. That's what I mean by the best of the best.
Board Member Griffin, I know at least one of these models is one that I requested that they put together at a previous board meeting.
All I'm asking is this the best?
Yes,
that's what I'm asking.
it's the best that we would do with what we have,
That's
yes.
all I got. That's all I got. And then my last thing is, this is in reference to you, Ms. Veal. I'm seeing that the transportation costs continue to keep on rising, so that's an issue. And so I'm wondering what are we doing in terms of optimizing that transportation?
So our current transportation contract, I believe, ends this year. So it will allow us time to go back and rebid. The reason why the cost has increased is because the first year of that contract, it went out very last minute to bid. So we kind of was left in a sticky situation where we only had one bidder. So that was the increase of cost based on that particular vendor at the time. But with the expiration this year, we can actually get ahead of the game, bid that out a little earlier so we can have some more quality candidates and possibly decrease our costs.
So we think that it's a possibility that may happen. And then to you, Dr. Fulmore, I heard you say that we would need, in order to avoid the deficit, you would have 15 staff members. Can one of you guys tell me how much money is that we're talking about? If you had to get rid of those 15, or should I say let go?
What we shared and presented, again, was to address $3.5 million deficit at max and anywhere between 15 to 20 staff members in programming, which I am not naming because I'm not publicly firing people by talking about
I didn't say the name, I just
positions,
need to know
but
how
I have
much.
already stated at least 15 staff members in programming that would total $3.5 million to generate reoccurring revenue at the max, at the, all things inclusive in programming that we would be in a deficit without having, I believe it's 700-something children.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate it. My last thing, Dr. Fulmore, as I said when I very first got here, is that I just arrived. And I'm not saying that you didn't say it, but if I'm asking, if you can answer, that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking you to tell me about a person's name or any of those things. I'm just more so just trying to get understanding. So that way, when we do have to do an action item, I have the information that I need. That was all. You can go back.
I'm going to say one thing, and then I'll go to Mr. Marshall, but I do want to take a step back and first off, thank you, Dr. Fulmore. Thank you, Ms. Veal, you and your team for putting all this together. I want to especially call out Vice President Eames and thank her for the work that she has done since the last board meeting to bring folks together to see how we can make this work, how we can make a sustainable school model. And to once again zoom out, sort of to echo some of your points, Dr. Fulmore, federal money is down. State money is stagnant at best. Money, we heard earlier today, is down. Our city population is down 40,000 in the last 4 years. Our fund balance is currently at essentially the minimum that we allow by board policy. And our enrollment as a district is down by 3,300 students over the last 8 years. Those are facts. That is reality. We cannot change that. So we as a board in the next, I would say before next meeting, we need to figure out what is our appetite, if any, for a recurring deficit at this school. And we need to do our job as a board to make it clear to our superintendent how we would like her to act. Do we want her to make significant reductions in central office capacity in order to sustain this one school site? I don't know the answer to that, but as a board, we need to figure that out, and we need to have these discussions both one-on-one and publicly, probably at our next meeting or special meeting. I don't care the format, but we as a board need to figure that out and let our superintendent know what it is that we want. I also think, Dr. Fulmore, if I could give you and your team an assignment, which I know you'll do, if you could just keep updating us on the NCAP results as they come in weekly, and then I'd love to see it presented again at our next meeting. I cannot reiterate this enough. In order for this to work, we need people to enroll their children in the school. We need them to apply for next year. If we don't get those applications, that to me is a strong signal that in addition to all of the demographic factors that are at play, all of the sort of funding mechanisms that are outside of our control that are at play, if people aren't enrolling their children, that means the demand doesn't exist to run this school. So our job as a board is to figure this out between now and next month and give clear direction to our superintendent. Our superintendent is going to keep updating us on the enrollment landscape. What we need from the community is a clear signal that this is the school that they want to have. And the only way we get that clear signal is not by facts, or excuse me, not by feelings, it's not by volume, it's by people selecting this school for their children. Mr. Marshall, and then Board Member Bureau.
President Beaudoin, you asked the question of why we have to have a special meeting to do what we can do in committee meeting. We can do this in committee meeting if the agenda is set to talk about all of the variables and all of the issues that we need to talk about. But if you do it like we're doing it now and like we did it back in '24, you have one thing that you start talking about and everybody has something different to say about it, and you're all over the place. And you never really talk about those things that may be most important. We didn't talk about it back then, whether or not the district should be in the business of direct running schools. We didn't have that conversation. We didn't have the conversation about what it would take to invest in that and do it. We didn't discuss the kind of school we would want. We didn't just have any of those discussions, and that's what I asked for us to pause, have a meeting to put all of the issues that we should discuss on the table and talk about them and then make a rational decision. What we're doing now is making another irrational decision based on strictly on the numbers. Strictly on the numbers. Now, the last thing that I want to say about this is to attract students to your school when you're competing against everybody else is you have to have an image of difference. How are we any different? So why should they choose the Leah Chase School over any other school? Those are the kinds of things that you put on an agenda to talk about. And how much is it going to cost? When a company, if this were a business, and you did what you did, made the presentation that you made today, strictly on numbers, not on projected sales, not on what you can do to increase sales and also to decrease cost, then you can make those numbers say whatever you want it to say. These numbers are terrible, but does it mean that we can retain more of the students and increase enrollment? And if that's what we decide to do, what is the plan for that? Those are the kinds of things that you discuss in a planning meeting. But we're not doing that, and you don't do that in a committee meeting when the agenda is not set to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Board Member Bureau.
Yeah, my comment essentially piggybacks off of what Board Member Marshall was going to say. I think that we as a district need to highlight Leah Chase to get enrollment figures up. I remember the previous year, you know, in its initial year, I saw a lot of advertisement, and at the previous board meeting, I had asked, like, how much advertisement have we done for Leah Chase for this current school year? I've seen events for other schools that are not being replicated at our school level. We're not doing the same thing that some charter school groups are doing, so I think we need to make sure that everyone understands what Leah Chase is, what we're doing, and that we're putting our efforts behind getting enrollment up.
Board President Bodwa.
I do remember talking about what we wanted this school to be last year, or over a year ago. I also remember the previous superintendent ignoring pretty much all of what we said and making the school what she wanted it to be, which is this. And we did express as a board an interest in an arts integrated school. I think that's why one of the options that's been presented to us today is a truly arts integrated school. We have it based on another arts integrated school in the system right now that's currently operating as an arts integrated school. I think what you're talking about, Mr. Marshall, is like a retreat, a planning retreat. It's not a special meeting, it's a retreat. It would have to be a facilitated conversation. I'm not saying we can't have that. Like, maybe we do need to have that. I don't think that's the same thing as having a special meeting, because just because there isn't an action item on the agenda today doesn't mean somebody couldn't make a motion to take action and we could vote on that. There wasn't one planned, but we could always take action. If we want a planning retreat, then that's maybe what we're talking about here. That's a facilitated discussion by somebody who isn't one of us, to make sure we're not talking about whatever we want to talk about, and that we are actually talking about what we want here, there, and the other. What that doesn't change, though, is that we hire the superintendent, and the superintendent is the one who runs the school, who designs the school, who develops the school through our guidance of like what we can afford, what we want her to, you know, what we think she can afford, and what we want the larger budget of the district to look like. I just don't. I think that I don't think it's correct that we didn't have those conversations when this plan started to come together in like early 24, whenever it was, late 23.
You know, I don't.
Ms. Eames, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Field to finish her
Yeah,
update.
I you know, how do I want to say this? We're not trying to get into the weeds personally, myself, on how to operate the school on a daily basis. And I don't know if we talked about with the previous superintendent about retention of students and what was our goal for that. That should be a primary focus for us, for the board, for the administration, that you want to keep what you have, and you want to do everything within your power to keep what you have and to brand. I think we've talked about this a little bit up here today, but branding is a huge piece. And Gabby talked about it, I think, at the last meeting about visibility. And Mr. Percy Marchand is on. I generated a just small committee so that we could try to see what we could do, Friends of Leah Chase, just to see. And these people are excited about working. Do they have babies that can come in the building? Probably not, but they know people all over this city. And so we're not trying to hurt the other schools that's already out there. We're just trying to fill our seats in a Tier 1 school. We have a Tier 1 school. We have babies sitting in some of the worst buildings possible in this city. And the parents aren't even aware, maybe, of a Leah Chase, and it's a top-tier school. So like I said, I'm not trying to dictate to the superintendent what to do. If she asks me a question, I'll answer. I have never, ever given her any direction on who to hire, who to fire, or what have you. That's her job. I don't want that. But I'm not going to sit back as a board member representing District 1 and not fight like hell to keep this school open if we can. can. Now, I'm not crazy that I'm going to drive us into a hole that we can't come out of, but I will use every fiber in my body to make certain I do everything I can for success in that building. But I need administration to also work with those parents. And we've had an issue because we've lost our principal. I don't know the particulars in that, and I never asked and never will ask. But we need to make it a community-friendly school. And from what the people were telling me, they couldn't get into the building. So we need that so that we have community buy-in, that people want to invest in the building. I think it should be an open building to community. We don't have anything to hide. If you come in, you might bring resources. Ms. Benson might walk in and drop $1 million on us if she knew what was happening in that building. So that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in grassroots, trying to do what we can as a board member, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Thank you, Ms. Eames. And I just, as we sort of close out this discussion for now.
I'd like to
go
make
back
a motion.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to make a motion.
Board counsel, this is not an action item on the agenda. Do we need to amend the agenda in order to make a
Well,
motion?
I think we need to know first what is the motion.
You need to know what the motion is before I can say whether you can have a motion.
I mean, there are some.
I'd like to make a motion to schedule a retreat to discuss this fully and to come up with a decision as to how to move forward.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. Parker is presiding over his
Well,
committee meeting.
so again, because there was not an action item listed on the agenda, it's fine for us to move forward without unanimous approval?
Oh. So you do need to amend the agenda to add the action item. Sorry, there are some actions like tabling something that you don't need to amend the agenda
I thought I
for.
wasn't,
So,
I'm not.
okay, Mr. Zervigon has a question.
Point of clarification, we're in committee, would this not have to be a recommendation to the board to please do this?
So I think to Mr. Parker's point, there is not an action item on the agenda, period, whether that is a recommendation to the board to make a decision or a decision. You're correct. Okay, the Budget and Finance Committee, I don't believe, has jurisdiction to be setting special meetings or retreats of the like. So that does seem appropriate that would be a recommendation. Nonetheless, the first step would be to amend the agenda for today's Budget and Finance Committee.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to allow for a vote on whether or not to hold a retreat. And that motion would then need to be seconded and approved unanimously, correct?
To add the action item to today's agenda, let me also just point out for board clarification that you don't need a board action in order to set any meeting, any retreat of the like. There is a board policy that deals with calling special meetings or setting those sorts of things, and no board action is required to do so. So regardless of the outcome of the vote on amending the agenda or recommending to the board to set a separate meeting, that from a procedural standpoint, you don't need any of that to have that happen. Okay, turning it back over to you, Mr. Parker.
Oh, sorry. It just doesn't seem germane to this committee. I'm happy to, as president, call for, to do it without a vote of this committee, to call for a retreat if that's the desire of the board. I don't think, or even if it's not, if it's my own desire, or if it's your own desire, I think the policy dictates how we get things done, and this is not the way we do it. This is my comment.
Okay, so my understanding is there is not currently an action item before the board because we have not amended the agenda. Is that accurate?
That is correct. You had asked for, you said that you were,
I'm going to withdraw that motion.
okay.
And I think we as a board need to have that discussion. As you mentioned, board counsel, there is policy in place for how to conduct or how to call a special called meeting. We can look at that policy and follow through with it. But for now, I'm going to end this discussion and turn it back over to Ms. Veal, because we still have some slides for her update in item 4.1.
Well,
So-
remember, before you do that, you said that, I want to say President Baldwin said that, we can discuss it now. So if we can discuss it now, and I think that there's still some discussion that needs to happen, it doesn't make any sense for you to turn it back over to Dr.
I appreciate that, but for the purposes of this committee, which I am chairing right now,
I got it.
I'm going to keep the discussion moving. We've had every board member make multiple comments. We have a lot of work ahead of us. I don't think anybody doubts that there is work to do, but I am going to turn it over, as chair, I'm going to end the discussion here and turn it over to Ms. Veal.
Well, you're not the only person that can make the motion in reference to changing the agenda, correct?
Fine, if you'd like to make
Yeah,
a motion to
we'll go
amend
ahead
the
and do
agenda,
that.
go ahead.
Let's do that.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor from Ms. Griffin to amend the agenda to add an action item to today's Finance Committee meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Are you abstaining, Ms.
I
Eames?
say aye.
That's 3-2.
It needs to be unanimous in order to be added. It needs to be unanimous in order to be added to the agenda. The motion fails. Ms. Veal, the floor is yours.
You still didn't say your thing.
So as we get into the audit of 2025, I just wanted to give an updated consensus around the corrective action plan. One thing we did find out from the auditors last week is an important thing as it pertains to the single audit. So the OMB has not yet released guidance on single audit and the procedures. So the LLA is pretty much saying now, hey, you can continue to submit, but it'll only be the financial statement portion. And it looks like right now we're on track with the single audit portion to be submitted January 31st of 2026. So even though we do still have that estimated completion date because we have staff that's pushing and pushing and pushing, a lot of people working 7 days a week to stay on track, we do realize that now we have something beyond our control with the OMB, with the single audit. In addition to that, the fact that we started like a lot of our things after the audit release in August of 25, we are cutting it close. Still working, we still trying, we still pushing, but we are cutting it close. So I just wanted to kind of give that update. A lot of things, we're seeing some positive things in our results of the testing thus far, but we just still have a good bit of things to do and to go. And with that single audit component not being released from the OMB, that may not be also released until January 31st. So there's a slight extension on the part that's beyond our control. Financial statements we're still working toward. And then as we look ahead, I want to get into like December and January, well, really January of 2026. The finance team will start doing discussion groups in our meetings as more of a pre-education series because we do realize we have a good bit of new finance people and school leaders that's in our city. So we're doing discussion groups, pre-education on the DLFA, what it is, what's our components, because we do plan on doing working groups around July, August to start for the next iteration of the DLFA and what it looks like. Should we change weights? Should we increase some things with CTE? Like this will be that time to educate people so we can plan for what we need to do as a system, being that our landscape is changing just a little bit. When we talk about financial accountability, one thing that our team has been working with school leaders and finance leaders on is a possible tiered intervention system where we have 2 levels of financial accountability that's like an early warning intervention system. So it helps to trigger things financially before it even gets to a CSAF level 1, level 2. So we want to be able to address things as we see them and not wait on like where we are at that point in time. So these are the main things that we're looking ahead and planning for, and that really concludes my presentation.
Love that. I love that. It's something we've been talking about and something that came to light last year when everybody's finances were laid to bear. And having a system like this will make sure that our schools are as healthy as they need to be so that they can be focused on the work of educating the kids, and that they're as strong as they need to be. So I appreciate this movement and that board request. I look forward to
Absolutely.
hearing more about it.
All right. For me?
Is that all for your presentation?
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
other questions for Ms. Veal before we move on? Thank you. Ms.
Thank
Veal.
you.
I think we're going to now move on to our action items. I'm taking over as chair. Be careful what you ask for. Action item 4.1. Request to approve revolving loan fund for Voorhees Jackson Waters campus. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve the school facilities preservation revolving loan agreement between OPSB and the Legacy of Excellence, Inc. for improvements to Voorhees Jackson Waters for a window replacement project in the amount of $1,538,328.32. May I have a motion to move item 4.1 to the full board?
Yes, so moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Zervigon, second by Ms. Bureau. Are there any public comments on this or any?
There are no public comments that have been submitted for this committee meeting.
Thank you. Any board comment? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That will move on to the full board for consideration. Action item 2. Request to approve revolving loan fund for Ellis Marsalis campus. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve the school facilities preservation revolving loan fund agreement between OPSB and the Advocates for Art-Based Education for improvements to the Ellis Marsalis campus for a roof replacement in the amount of $850,301.88. May I have a motion to move item 4.1 to the full board? So moved. Sorry, 4.2.
You need a motion or a second? I'll give it to you.
I moved by Ms. Bureau. So it's been moved by me, seconded by Ms. Bureau. Are there any, is there any board comment on this item? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Action item 4.2 will move on to the full board. Action item 4.3, request to approve the Second Amendment to contract for professional governmental relations services. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve the Second Amendment to the contract for professional governmental relations services with the advocacy partners in the amount of $95,400, exercising the second renewal option for the term of January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2026. May I have a motion to move item 4.3 to the full board?
So moved. Yes, second.
It's been moved by Vice President Eames and seconded by Mr. Zervigon. Are there any board comments? We have a motion. Oh, yes, Ms. Griffin.
Didn't we do one of these last month?
Mr. McCorkle is coming up to answer.
Good afternoon, board members. The contract that was approved on the last meeting was for the 25 year, and this is for the 26 year.
Thank you for the
No problem.
clarification.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Item 4.3 will be brought to the full board for consideration. Action item 4.4, request to approve Second Amendment to contract for disaster recovery, grant management, and administration services. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve the Second Amendment to the contract with CSRS for disaster recovery, grants management, administration services in the amount of $0 for a term of 1 year. May I have a motion to move item 4.4 to the full board?
Second.
It's been moved by Vice President Eames and seconded by Mr. Zervigon. Is there any board comment? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Action item 4.4 will be moved on to the full board. Action item 4.5, request to accept donation to support Fine Arts Professional Development and Fine Arts Festival from Country Music Association Foundation. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accept the donation from the Country Music Association Foundation in the amount of $18,000 to support the district's fine arts initiatives. May I have a motion to move item 4.5 to the full board? It's been moved by Ms. Bureau and seconded by Vice President Eames. Are there any board comments?
I have a question in reference
Yes,
to
Ms.
that.
Griffin.
Is this going to be used for the full, or is this something that we're doing directly for Leah Chase? I'm just trying to get clarity around this.
Ms. Veal's coming up to answer.
It was awarded for all of our LEA schools.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you for that question. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Item 4.5 will move on to the full board. Action item 4.6, Resolution 2625, request to approve Amendment 1 to the 2025-2026 General Fund Budget. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve Resolution 2625, FY 2025 Budget Amendment 1, Impact to the General Fund. May I have a motion to move item 4.6 to the full board? Second.
Yeah.
It's been moved by Vice President Eames, seconded by me. Are there any board comments? I have a question. Can you just give us a brief? Did we already talk about this, Ms. Veal?
It's actually for FY '26 budget amendment for the state-approved legislative stipends.
Over the legislative stipends. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any approved?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. We have one abstention. Action item 4.6 moves on to the full board for consideration. Action item 4.7, Resolution 2725, resolution to approve Amendment 1 to the 2025-2026 Special Revenue Fund Budget. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve Resolution 2725, Budget Amendment 1 to the Special Revenue Funds for the System-Wide Needs Fund. May I have a motion to move item 4.7 to the full board?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved by Mr. Zervigon, seconded by me. Are there any board comments on this item?
I just have a question in reference to this.
Ms.
So,
Griffin.
I know that there's different phases of this. So, where does this fall?
So this is to address, I believe, the round 3 spending. And at the beginning of the year, when we adopted the special funds budget, it had to be in balance, which means no deficit. So now this allows us to kind of spend some of the fund balance down by adding those funds into the budget.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. 4.7 will move on to the full board for consideration. Action item 4.8, request to approve the third amendment to the contract for third-party contractor for Title I supplemental services for eligible non-public schools. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve the third amendments to the contracts for third-party contractor for Title I supplemental services for eligible non-public schools with Catapult Learning LLC, $445,433.19 in carryover funds for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. $1,148,373.91 for the 2025-2026 fiscal year, not to exceed $1,593,807.10. Kusanza Enterprises 2 LLC, DBA Sylvan Learning Center, $856,528.90 in carryover funds for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, and $1,403,330.07 for the 2025-2026 fiscal year, not to exceed $2,259,858.97. Believed to achieve educational services, $616,166.67 in carryover funds for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, and $1,686,138.54 for the 2025-2026 fiscal year, not to exceed $2,302,305.21. And Learnit Systems LLC, $79,166.93 in carryover funds for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, and $287,093.48 for the 2025-2026 fiscal year not to exceed $366,260.41 for a total amount not to exceed $6,522,231.69 for all vendors, and to authorize the general counsel to prepare the contract amendments for signature of the board president and contractors. May I have a motion to move item 4.8 to the full board?
So moved, yeah.
It's been moved by Mr. Zervigon, second by me. Any board comment? Would you like me to repeat the item?
I don't need.
Ms. Griffin, just kidding,
So,
Ms. Griffin.
I just have a question for you, Ms. Field, or Dr. Fulmore, whichever one. Didn't we do this last, like, I recall us doing these for the, so
Oh,
what's
we
this
had-
one for?
We had a lot of the same vendors or similar vendors for the non-public private equitable services. Again, we service over 53 plus schools non-publicly. So some of them will have rollover balances in 24, 25, but also creating new contracts with those vendors to do those services for the private equitable.
So are these,
Share.
some of these are new contracts? Because last month we did Title I,
We
did we
did,
not?
yep.
Okay.
We have a lot of these service
Okay.
providers.
All right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, we have one abstention. Motion carries. 4.8, we'll move on to the full board. Action item 4.9, request to award ITB 25 FAC 0021 sidewalk replacement at Alfred Lawless School. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accept the base bid from Thigpen Construction Company, Inc. for the sidewalk replacement at Alfred Lawless School in the total amount of $113,700. May I have a motion to move item 4.1 to the full board?
Second.
It's been moved by Vice President Eames and seconded by Ms. Bureau. Are there any board comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Action item 4.9 will move on to the full board. Action item 4.10, request to award ITB 25 FAC 0015 mechanical replacement at Dr. Everett Williams. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accept the base bid from ARC Mechanical Contractors for the HVAC replacement at Dr. Everett Williams School in the total amount of $314,900. May I have a motion to move item 4.10 to the full board? So moved.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Zervigon. I'll second by by me. Are there any board comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Action item 4.10 moves on to the full board. Action item 4.11. Request to award ITB 25 FAC 0093 for ADA improvements at William Gust School. It is recommended that Orleans Parish School Board accept the base bid from Smith Construction Company for the ADA improvements at William Gust School in the total amount of $709,311. May I have a motion to move item 4.11 to the full board?
Second.
It's been moved by Vice President Eames and seconded by Mr. Zervigon. Any board comment? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Action item 4.11 will move on to the full board. Action item 4.12, request to approve state contract purchase for chiller replacement at Medard Nelson School. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve the chiller replacement at Medard Nelson School by Johnson Controls under Louisiana State Contract 44000328862 for a total amount not to exceed $307,490. May I have a motion to move item 4.12 to the full board? So moved. It's been moved by me and seconded by Vice President Eames. Are there any board comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Action item 4.12 will move on to the full board. Action item 4.13, request to approve state contract purchase for chiller replacement at Mary McLeod Bethune School. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve the chiller replacement at Mary McLeod Bethune School by Train US Inc. under Louisiana State Contract Number 44000289996 for a total amount not to exceed $508,336.42. May I have a motion to move item 4.13 to the full board?
So moved.
It's been moved by Ms. Bureau, second by Mr. Zervigon. Do we have any board comment on this? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, action item 4.13 moves on to the full board. Action item 4.14. Request to approve state contract purchase for compressor replacement at JF Kennedy. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve the compressor replacement at the John F. Kennedy School by Train US Inc. under Louisiana State Contract Number 44000289996 for a total amount not to exceed $249,896.16. May I have a motion to move item 4.14 to the full board?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved by Mr. Zervigon, second by me. Any board comment? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, action item 4.14 will move to the full board. And finally, action item 4.15. Resolution 2925, levying constitutional and other dedicated millages, 2026. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board adopt Resolution 2925, setting forth and designating constitutional mills and other dedicated mills on all properties subject to taxation in the Parish of Orleans, State of Louisiana, for the year 2025. May I have a motion to move item 4.15 to the full board?
Yes, so moved.
Second. It's been moved by Mr. Zervigon, seconded by me. Any public comment?
There's no public comment.
I'm sorry, any board comment? Okay, all those in favor? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Action item 4.15 moves on to the full board. There are no further items on the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn? It's been moved by Ms. Griffin, second by Mr. Zervigon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Time is now 1:23. The meeting is adjourned. I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Zervigon. Oh, yes, we'll do a 5-minute bio break, and then we'll get moving again.